What's up, people? This is DET Aquarium, and today we're going to be going over part 2 on how to keep and breed shrimp successfully. I'm glad you guys enjoyed part 1. This time we're going to talk about planting and filling your shrimp tank. Let's go ahead and get into it.
Now that you have your plan in place, you can really think about what plants you want to have in your shrimp tank. Now, one that I highly recommend is moss. Whether you have a carpet of it, tied to driftwood, or just sitting in there, it's a great place for microorganisms to really thrive, which in turn will be a great food source for the shrimp as well. Shrimp like to play in it, and when they start breeding regularly, the shrimplets will have a nice place to hide or feel a little more safe. I want to give you another quick tip. Now, depending on the plants that you choose, you're going to have adequate lighting for those plant or plants. In all my shrimp tanks, I use Archaea LEDs. Now, the main reason is because LEDs don't produce a lot of heat. NeoCaridina and Caridina species, from my experience, like to have cooler water temperatures. Now, I run all of my shrimp tanks usually between the temperatures of 72 and 74 degrees. So you need to keep that in mind whenever you're trying to pick and choose what plants you want to have in your shrimp tank. Now that you've selected your plants and planted them, you can really think about filling up your aquarium at this time, which I think is one of the most important steps in keeping and breeding shrimp. Now, I use RODI water, and that's because whether you're keeping NeoCaridina or Caridina shrimp, you're going to have to start with just a plain from scratch water that you can remineralize and get to the water parameters that you can keep these shrimp most successful. Now, I'm going to go over both NeoCaridina and Caridina shrimp and what water parameters I think and what I've used to create a successful habitat for them. Now, when I keep NeoCaridina, I like to have the TDS at 200 to 240, GH at 5 to 6, KH at 0, pH at 7 to 7.4, and the temperature between 72 and 74 degrees. When I'm keeping Caridina shrimp, I like to have the TDS between 120 and 160, GH at 5 to 6, KH at 0, pH I like to have lower, and I try to keep it around 6.5 or so, temperature between 68 and 72 degrees. Now, just a quick tip, if you want to keep NeoCaridina and Caridina shrimp in the same aquarium, that's okay, they're not going to interbreed. But I will recommend using the water parameters more closely related to the Caridina shrimp, just because in my experience the NeoCaridina shrimp are a little more hardier or not as sensitive to fluctuations in your water chemistry. So that's just a tip. You can keep both in the same shrimp tank, just cater a little bit more towards the Caridina. Now that I reviewed with you what water parameters I use for my NeoCaridina and Caridina shrimp tanks, how do you actually take these measurements, and what is TDS, GH, and KH? Now, your TDS is your total dissolved solids, and I take that measurement with this meter on the left-hand side. This blue meter, you just put it in the water, it gives you a quick, accurate reading, and it's easy as that. The pH meter on the right-hand side, you can use your API test kit, that'll work as well. But this meter gives me the temperature reading immediately, and it takes about 30 seconds or so for the pH to stabilize and give me an accurate reading. Now, your GH is your general hardness, your KH is your carbonate hardness, and I use the API test kit. I just don't know if there's anything easier at this time, kind of like the meters that I use. But I would take some time to research TDS, GH, and KH, just so you have a little more background on why you're trying to stabilize these water parameters to keep and breed these shrimp successfully. Now, again, I told you before that we start out with RODI water, and that's because we want to remineralize it to get to the water chemistry or water parameters that are ideal for these shrimp. I use this product to remineralize the RODI water. It's B Shrimp Mineral GH Plus by Salty Shrimp. It's a powder. You just make your RODI water, put the powder in the water, let it sit for some time, and you get that GH of 5 to 6 and your KH of 0. Now, I use this product. They make several remineralizers out there. This one has just worked for me, and I definitely recommend it. Now, the last thing I want to touch base with you on is cycling your shrimp tank. Now that you have it planted, you have it filled with your RODI water remineralized, now you have to be patient. Take your time. I took about 6 to 8 weeks on cycling the shrimp tanks in front of you, and that's because you want to make sure your ammonia and your nitrite are at 0. Now, these two water parameters are extremely important to measure and that's because your shrimp are sensitive and it could wipe out your shrimp tank as soon as you start. Now, again, I took 6 to 8 weeks. You don't have to take that lengthy time. I just wanted to ensure that the water parameters were nice and stable so I can keep and breed these shrimp successfully. But that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed the second part of the series. You guys have a great week ahead, and I'll talk to you next time.